Hello, welcome to the second lesson of the module Project Management and Business Planning. This lesson continues on lesson number one, in which we talked about projects and project management, covering project management principles and correlation with stakeholders. We mentioned that projects are temporary endeavors for creating unique results within a defined period of time. But how is the project actually developing during that time period? What steps must be taken to complete the project from beginning to the end? And how are those organizations structured, or what are the forms of organizational structures that manage projects? Second lesson will focus on two main topics: project lifecycle and project management organizations. Firstly, we will define project lifecycle and describe main phases of the project. And in the second part of the lesson, we will focus more on types of organizational structures managing the project. What is a project lifecycle? A project lifecycle is a series of phases that a project goes through from its initiation to its closure. Each project phase is composed of a set of logically linked activities that result in the delivery of one or more project outcomes. The phases of the project can follow a sequential, iterative, or overlapping model. The names, quantity, and length of the project phases are determined by the control and management requirements of the organizations involved in the project, the nature of the project itself, and its application field. The phases are time limited with a defined starting and ending point, or control checkpoint, which may be called a phase review, phase gate, control gate, or a similar term. At the control checkpoint, the project charter and business documents are re-evaluated based on the current situation. At this stage, the project progress is compared to the project management plan to determine whether the project should be changed, terminated, or proceed as planned. The project lifecycle defines the steps that must be taken to complete a project, from beginning to the end. The specific phases of the project lifecycle may vary depending on the methodology being used. However, regardless of the size and complexity, projects can be broken down into the following lifecycle structure: starting the project, organizing and preparing, carrying out the work, and closing the project. So the first phase of the project lifecycle is starting the project. So the project starts with a phase that involves creating, assessing, and outlining the business requirements for the project, determining the general approach for accomplishing it, and agreeing to prepare a detailed project plan. Results from this phase could include authorization to progress to the next stage, a record of the necessity for the project, and preliminary estimates of time and resources needed to complete it, and an initial list of stakeholders. This phase typically encompasses a set of project management process groups, collectively referred to as initiation processes. The next phase is organizing and preparing. The next phase entails organizing and planning, which involves developing a plan that outlines the intended outcomes, the work to be done, the time, costs, and other resources necessary, and a strategy for managing key project risks. Result from this phase could include a project plan that documents the intent, project results, and the time, resources, and supporting processes need to achieve them. The project management process group that support this phase are called planning processes. Next phase is carrying out the work. The following phase entails carrying out the work, which includes establishing the project team and support systems, executing the planned work, and overseeing and controlling performance to guarantee adherence to the current plan. Results from this phase could include project outcomes, progress reports, and other communications. The general term for all the processes performed during this phase is executing processes. Executing processes is the general term for all those that are performed during this phase. The last phase is called closing the project. The final phase involves closing the project, which includes evaluating the project outcomes, obtaining customer approvals, transitioning project team members to new roles, closing financial accounts, and conducting a post-project assessment. Results from this phase could include final, accepted, and approved project outcomes and suggestions and recommendations for applying the lessons learned from this project to similar efforts in the future. The duration of project lifecycle can vary greatly depending on its size, with small projects often taking only a few days and larger projects lasting many years. To manage larger projects more effectively, project managers often break them down into separate phases that are treated as individual mini projects, with each passing through the four lifecycle phases. Regardless of the project size or complexity, these four phases remain the same and are used to provide greater focus on critical aspects and facilitate monitoring and controlling of the work. Okay, let's check some of the characteristics of the project lifecycle. In an ideal scenario, project lifecycle phases are completed sequentially, where one phase begins after the previous one ends. However, most of the time, project success requires a more flexible approach in which you should be able to respond to unexpected situations. For instance, when faced with tight deadlines, you may have to work on two or more project phases simultaneously, which increases the risk of redoing tasks and missing deadlines. In such scenario, it is important to document and communicate the potential risks and costs associated with this strategy. Additionally, sometimes you may learn by doing, and despite careful planning, you may realize that some things cannot be achieved in a way initially planned. In such cases, it may be necessary to return to earlier project phases and rethink them in light of new information. Also, unexpected changes such as key team members leaving the organization or the emergence of new technologies may require revisiting and rethinking earlier project phases to ensure project success. It's important to know that project lifecycle phases can overlap, and the length and complexity of each phase depend on the specific project. Understanding the project lifecycle can help project managers plan and execute successful projects. Now let's see how project lifecycle affects costs and risks. A typical generic lifecycle structure follows a pattern where cost and staffing levels start off low, increase as work progresses, and drop rapidly towards the end of the project. The highest level of risk is usually at the beginning of the project, and the risk gradually reduces over the course of the project as decisions are made and deliverables are accepted. At the start of the project, stakeholders have the highest ability to influence the final product characteristics without significantly impacting costs and schedule. But this ability decreases as the project progresses toward completion. Also, the cost of making changes and correcting errors typically increases substantially as the project nears completion. Project management organizations. A project management organization is a temporary form of organization created as a solution for managing projects, which enables the implementation of tasks by gathering the most competent staff in the organization or the environment. For easier understanding of the organizational structure for project management, it is necessary to understand the organizational structures within the organization itself. Why? Because projects are managed within the organizational structure or some kind of separate organizational structure is formed with the task of managing a project. What is actually an organizational structure? An organizational structure is a system that outlines how an organization directs its activities to accomplish its objectives. These activities can include rules, roles, and responsibilities. Putting it simply, the organizational structures lay out who does what so the organization can meet its objectives. Organizational structure also determines how information flows between different levels within the organization. For example, in a centralized structure, decisions are made at the top level and then distributed to lower levels, while in a decentralized structure, decision making is distributed across different levels of the organization. When managing projects, organizations implement different approaches for organizing and managing a project. Most of the organizations use one of three structures of project management: functional or centralized structure, project oriented structure, or matrix structure. Each of these structures has its advantages and disadvantages. So organizations should consider selecting an organizational structure most suitable for their project. Most typical organizational structures for project management are functional structure, project-oriented structure, and metric structure. Functional structure. In this structure, functional groups are formed by bringing together individuals who share common tasks or possess similar skills and knowledge. Within this structure, the management hierarchy is well defined and stretches from the leader of each group to a single person at all levels of the organization. Project is being managed according to the existing organizational structure in which team leader is the manager and the team members are his colleagues. So advantages of this structure are that functional groups are valuable sources of skills and knowledge within their areas of expertise. They have well-established communication processes and decision-making procedures, which help support the group's projects in a consistent and timely manner. Functional groups provide a focused and supportive work environment for their members. While some of the disadvantages may be that functional groups can prevent effective collaboration among different groups within the organization, members within a functional group are primarily focused on performing their tasks within their area of expertise rather than working towards goals and results that may affect other groups. A functional group may also encounter difficulties in gaining support from other groups that must either support or will be impacted by the project. The next structure is called project-oriented structure. So the projectized organization structure groups together all personnel working on a particular project. Project team members work close together and under the direct authority of the project manager for the duration of the project. As the highest authority within the project manager has complete decision-making power. The team member directly report to the project manager, and all of the tasks are concentrated towards the project. Advantages of this structure are that all members of a project team report directly to the project manager, enabling clearer lines of communication and decision making. Project team members are more likely to develop a shared sense of identity, which can increase their commitment to each other and the project success. Consistent processes of project work, communication, conflict resolution, and decision making are shared among all team members. Some of the disadvantages could be personnel cost may be higher due to the need for dedicated teams for each project. Technical knowledge transfer between projects may be reduced due to the focused nature of the project work. Career continuity, opportunities, and sense of job security may be reduced due to temporary nature of work and the project. The last structure is called the matrix structure. The matrix organizational structure merges features of both functional and project-oriented structures, allowing individuals from different parts of the organization to contribute their specialized expertise to projects in a responsive and effective manner. In a matrix organizational structure, individuals from various parts of the organizations are tasked with leading or participating in projects. While project managers oversee project activities, administrative tasks are typically handled by the individual's direct supervisors. Advantages are that teams can be assembled quickly, specialized expertise can be utilized across multiple projects, structure supports team members' professional development by providing opportunities for both short term project work and long term skills enhancement. Difficulties will be that team members may have to respond to the authority of multiple managers due to their involvement in multiple projects. A functional manager's priorities may override those of a project manager, resulting in changes to team members' tasks and goals. Team members may not be familiar with each other's styles and area of expertise, and team members may focus more on their individual tasks rather than the project as a whole and its goals. It is important to point out here that there is no ideal organizational structure. Rather, the capability of the organization to apply best organizational structure for the specific requirements of the project. So at the end of the lesson, let's refer on one more time on the main topics covered. After talking about project and project management in general in the first lesson, now we have taken a step forward and analyzed what is actually happening during the project, how project phases and activities are interrelated and in a sequential, iterative, or overlapping way, thus creating unexpected situations that require organizational flexibility. Continuing on that matter, different organizational structure approaches are developed and can be applied in managing a project. As each organizational structure has its advantages and disadvantages, organizations should consider selecting an organizational structure most suitable for their project. To finalize this lesson, the main goal of this lesson is to help you understand that the project is composed of logical linked activities and that flexibility in organization's project management approach is needed to deliver a successful project. For more information about the topic of the lesson, feel free to check the reference links, and I will see you back in the next lesson of the module. Thank you.